Hey friends, it's Kelly. Thanks for joining me. I am back with a new layout for the Cut Shop. Today I'm going to be using the Party On cut file, and I do have a short Cricut Design Space tutorial to start. So as you can see, I already have the cut file on the design screen, and I am going to be slicing out the Make-A-Wish sentiment that's included in this cut file set. So I just inserted a square, resized it to fit over that sentiment, went over to the slice feature after I have selected the square and the cut file just to remove that portion. Now I am going to use the contour feature to delete that little bit that I have remaining on the screen from the cut file. I accidentally grabbed a little bit too much when I was slicing out this sentiment. Okay, so now that I have that all cleaned up and ready to go, I am going to insert a canvas. I'm going to go down to Scrapbook layout, and that's going to insert a 12 by 12 square on the design screen, just making it easier for me to size the cut file. My plan for my layout today is to have this title going across the page diagonally, and I'm going to place a photo above and below the title. So I want this to be very large. I want it to fill up a large majority of the 12 by 12 layout. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time to resize it, just eyeballing it to see how large I want it to be. Now, if you're familiar with Cricut Design Space, then you know that the largest image you can cut on a 12 by 12 cutting mat is 11.5 inches. But after I got the size the way that I wanted and I went over to the Edit tab, I saw that it was much larger than 11.5. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and send it onto the cutting mat. It's going to tell me that it needs to change the mat size to 12 by 24, which is okay. I'm still planning on using a 12 by 12 mat, and I'm going to show you a little trick on how you can make that work. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this 12 by 24 cutting mat just so I can see the grid lines a little bit better. And if you look really closely, there's a little circle at the very top of the cut file image. That will allow me to rotate it and position it on this 12 by 24 mat. And I'm going to make sure that I position it within the 12 by 12 grid lines. This will allow me to use a 12 by 12 cutting mat, even though it says it's a 12 by 24 mat, and it will cut exactly where I want it on a 12 by 12 piece of scrapbook paper. Okay, so here you can see the cut file image, and I actually cut it on white and black cardstock because I wasn't sure which one I was going to use on my layout. But I was able to use my 12 by 12 cutting mat, even though it said 12 by 24 on the design screen, and it still cut perfectly. I didn't have any issues. And there I was showing you the photos that I'm going to be using today. Those are from my son's most recent birthday. And obviously it's going to be a birthday layout with the Make-A-Wish sentiment that I am using. Now I'm going through some of the products that I plan on using for this layout. The pattern paper that I have behind the sentiment is from the Bella Boulevard Alex collection. Now I'm going through the Bella Boulevard Alex ephemera pack, and I also have the Tabby's pack. Just kind of going through and seeing what pieces I might want to use for the layout. I really like this collection because it does highlight a lot of the things that my son is currently into, you know, video games, music, pizza, cheeseburgers. It has a lot of fun boy themed sentiments and just kind of ephemera pieces. And so I really like how it just really suits him at this age. I also grabbed some birthday themed rub-ons that I have from Basic Gray, and those have been in my stash for a really long time. None of them end up making it onto the layout, but I will save them for a future layout. Now I'm going through the 6x8 paper pad, just trying to figure out if there's anything that I want to use for layers behind the photos. I do go through multiple pieces of that pattern paper, but nothing was really fitting the way that I wanted it to. A lot of it was too bright or too busy. So I end up solving that a little later on in the video, and it comes around in a way that I was not expecting. Okay, so my first attempt at fixing this problem I was having with trying to figure out what layers to put behind the photo was to create some mixed media behind the photos to use as a layer. So I grabbed the white Acrotones paint from Shimmers and applied some paint to the white cardstock. And right off the bat, I wasn't overly pleased with how this was going. I think the area was just a little bit too large that I added the paint to. I should have made it a little bit smaller. And I think that I should have applied the strokes diagonally rather from the top of the page to the bottom of the page, since everything on the layout from the title to my photos are all facing a diagonal direction. So I thought, since it's not really going the way that I like, why not just add some more layers, see if maybe I can keep going and maybe I'll like it a little bit more. So I grabbed a few green paints from my stash and just mixed them together. I'm trying to match the green that is in the Alex collection. I'm using the packaging technique, just adding some more color onto that black cardstock to see if I can just fix it, if I can keep going with it, maybe I'll like it, but I'm still not loving how it's looking. So I bring the photos back in and I think the area is just too large and I'm not real happy with it. I felt like the green was a little too bold. So now I'm coming in and smudging some acrylic paint with my finger on the green, trying to lighten it a little bit, but it's just not working. I just am not liking it. And you know, looking at it now, it doesn't look as bad as I remember it being as I was making the layout. I still don't love it here, but I remember thinking as I was making this that this is just not working. So then I think that maybe if I bring in some black splatters and just kind of add a messy factor all across the black cardstock, that maybe that would help too. But I just not digging it. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside in just a moment and move on to something else as I'm trying to figure out what I am going to do. Okay, so at this point I had walked away for a little bit, came back into my craft room, and just really was not happy with this. So rather than throwing away the black cardstock, I decided to use the painted portion as the mat behind my photo. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. It matches the green in the Alex collection really, really well. It's not too bright, it's not too bold, it's not distracting. It was exactly what I was looking for. Okay, so now I've cut the cut file a second time on a new piece of black cardstock. I know that I'm going to be going with a black cardstock for my layout, but I'm going to use this white sentiment also. What I'm going to do is I am going to just cut it out from that white cardstock, and then I'm going to position it behind the black cardstock just to create a little bit of a shadow. I really like the added detail that this brings to the layout. It also adds a little bit more depth and dimension, which I think is fun. It's subtle, but sometimes those subtle details make a huge difference on a layout or any project that you're making. So I'm just using liquid adhesive to get that adhered to the black cardstock. And then I'm going to adhere the pattern paper that I had been using throughout this layout behind the sentiment also. But I end up doing that off camera because my battery dies. But here you can see that the pattern paper is adhered, and I also added some hand stitching. The hand stitching just adds a border around those letters, just helping them stand out and kind of pop off the page a little bit more. And now I am ready to start getting all of my embellishments adhered down. I have added a frame to both of the photos, and that frame is from the Crate Paper Cool Kit collection. It's from the 12x12 chipboard sheet. And my embellishments that I use for the photos are going to mirror each other. So pretty much everything that I add to one photo, I am going to add to the second photo. I've added a couple tabs from the Bella Boulevard Alex collection, and then that green arrow sticker that is from the same collection. I'm going to add one to the top and the bottom of the top photo. That chipboard frame added a little bit of elevation to one side of the photo, so I am just adding some fun foam to the opposite side of the photo just to make sure that it will lay evenly across the page. I do bring in a star chipboard banner that again is from the Crate Paper Cool Kit collection, and I'm going to add that to the bottom photo just to fill in a little bit of space there. I am adding the fun foam to that bottom photo also for the same reason, because of that chipboard frame. And now I'm going to add that same green arrow sticker to the bottom photo just to mimic the green that I have in the top photo. I'm just going to trim a little piece and add it right next to that chipboard frame. Now I've added some black stitching through those labels just to make sure that they are secured and just for a little added extra detail. And now I'm going to start adhering everything down with liquid adhesive. I just absolutely love these photos of Aiden. I don't think I have ever gotten a clear shot of him blowing out candles before. This is the first time it's ever really been in focus. So I was really excited when I was going back through the photos from his birthday and saw that this one was crisp and clear, and that I would actually be able to scrapbook a photo of him blowing out candles. So I'm really happy with how this layout turned out. I love both of these photos of him. You can just see the pure joy on his face celebrating his birthday. So I've gotten the photos adhered, the banners adhered, and now I'm just bringing in a few tiny phrase stickers from the Crate Paper Cool Kit collection. They are silver and shiny and super cute. Now I'm just making sure that everything is straight and that you can see those arrow stickers kind of peeking out from behind the photo. And I decided to bring in one more tab, and I'm going to add it to the left side of both the top photo and the bottom photo just to kind of balance out the design so the photo wasn't so heavy on the right hand side, because that's where a majority of the embellishing is. And that is going to wrap it up. Here are the still shots. Please remember to head over to the Cut Shop to check out all of the cut files that are available. I'll be back again very soon with a new layout and new process video. As always, thank you so much for watching.